The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm the host and co-chair of this webinar. My name is Karen Mann, and I have with me my co-chair webinar, Sadita. We represent the Human Development and Leadership Division of the American Society for Quality. This is the global division aiming to enrich the personal and professional lives of our members and non-members across the global community. We continuously look for new speakers within the range of our body of knowledge, which can be found in my ASQ HD&L community site. We host monthly webinars. If you are interested or if you know of anyone that would be interested, we would be happy to review their application. Before we begin the webinar for today, let me go over some webinar rules. If there is any question or comment, please type under the question tab and we will answer the questions as we can throughout or also in the very end when we have a Q&A session. The webinar will be held for 45 minutes and then a Q&A session for 15 minutes. Those who attend for 40 minutes will receive 0.1 CEU through an email which you can save and use to claim your credit with ASQ. So today we're delighted to introduce to you our guest speaker, Tsui. Most of us spend our careers creating and following systems. They allow everything to function optimally and allow you to do your jobs efficiently. But what happens when systems breaks down? In this workshop, Anna shows you how to channel the current atmosphere of anxiety and instability to evolve the brand, your network, and your skill set to stay relevant and dynamic. Anna is a leadership and business coach, an international writer, speaker, and a serial entrepreneur. She helps people systematically overcome the biggest obstacles in their relationships to unlock the success. Anna is the founder of the Intuitive Business School. Her first book, Shadow Magic: Use Your Fear to Create a Prosperous Coaching Business, shows the readers how to overcome their personal self-sabotage and build a thriving career and business. Anna, I can't wait for the next 1 hour to learn all the goodies that you have to share with us. The floor is all yours.
Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction, Kiran, and thank you, Sadita, and thank you everyone who is joining me. So that's me, and just a little bit of quick background about me. I am a serial entrepreneur, and I've also been a professional coach for about 7 years. And I do think in this current climate, there are lots of opportunities for us to stand out as leaders, for us to lead, and also for us to perhaps strengthen our careers or even move into careers that are a better fit for us. And when I work with clients, I actually work with a lot of engineers, and I work with people who are very logical. And sometimes when we are very smart, like everyone on this call, and we have our own internal processes and we're really focused on finding solutions to things, sometimes we can miss out on the bigger picture. And so this webinar is really for me to help you connect with a different part of your brain. It's the part that allows you to see opportunities in this current atmosphere, in this current climate, in this current situation that not only your company is going through, but also that your family is going through. I bet people here have children next to them. Maybe we're in our pajamas, right? It's a whole different world. It's a whole different working situation. And there's a lot of opportunities there. And also in this webinar, we're going to go through how to identify your personal areas of leadership and what that means, and how to prepare for an uncertain, but also there is certainty, right, for an uncertain, but also kind of certain reality. So we all know that this is not the end times, but because we're all going through the same global experience, it means that the barriers of entry are actually lower. And it means that people are looking for people that they know and that they trust, and they're also looking for innovators and leaders. So never before has there been more opportunity for us to really stand out in what we do and for us to create the environment that we want, because the careers that we want and the lifestyle that we want, because we're all actively in a state of change. So one topic I want to discuss is, yes?
Anna?
Yes.
Well, this goal is, as you had proposed, it was really great at this time we're passing by. So I would actually open a poll to just see our attendees and see how they're doing at this time in terms of career-wise. So we do have a poll for you guys, and just share your job status. So you have three options. Someone might have lost their job recently, hopefully not, or they might just fear the job is at risk, or it could be actually at risk, or you feel your job is safe, as we're doing right now. Just
Great.
so
Thank
Anna
you
as
for
well
that.
can know how to. Thank you.
Yes, so take a moment, please, fill out that poll. Be as honest as you can, because we are all aware of the situation. And so no matter what situation you're in, what we're talking about today is the foundational skills, the foundational mindset that will help you really find opportunity during this time. And sometimes losing your job, I know it sounds kind of tough, and when you kind of get over it initially, sometimes losing your job is a great catalyst for change and for finding other solutions. So the first point, this is really, really obvious, but you would be surprised that many people do not choose to lead. So you have to choose to lead. And when I say lead, it means not only choosing to
So I
lead
think
in
we
terms
can
of your
close,
role.
if you're okay, Anna, can we close and share 1 second? So we have,
Sure.
let's close the poll and see for everybody else to see. So we have 62%. That's a good number. My job is safe, feels the job is safe. We have 29% who feel their job is at risk and 10% who lost their job. So we'll try to use this webinar somehow as we have some awareness about these numbers. And thanks for sharing, and hopefully you'll find this helpful.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
Back to
62, 29, and 10. And Sadita, will they be able to type in questions if they have questions?
Yes, we have a question box at any time, and we will have a 15 minutes at the end, but they can continue to type questions. If I see something is very related to what you're saying at that point, maybe we can stop if you feel like you need to do that.
Sure. Okay, perfect. Just let me know. So any situation that you're in, choosing to lead is actually the step that most people do not take. And choosing to lead means really taking ownership, right? Taking ownership of your responsibility, taking ownership of your role, and actually being a visible leader. And it could be in your career, but also in your life, right? So someone needs to decide what your family's having for dinner. Someone needs to decide when you're going to work out and eat something that's nutritious for you, right? So leading in one area of your life means leading in other areas of your life. And that comes from the decision to choose to lead. And if you actually make that decision, I'm going to choose to lead in this situation where I just lost my job. And we don't know exactly what that means, but that choice to know that you are a leader in the space means that you will find a solution. And sometimes, Kieran mentioned something about I am really, I specialize in helping people with their self-sabotage. And a lot of times when we don't choose to lead, or we don't choose to consistently lead, or to be seen as a leader, or to step up as a leader, it has to do with our internal core psychology, and we'll be taking a look at that. So leadership starts from within, and it starts with your internal authority. So your internal authority is basically your personal power. It's how you use your voice. It's whether or not you believe you have power. You'll be surprised at the number of highly skilled workers, right? We're talking analysts, we're talking engineers, we're talking quality professionals who don't feel like they have this sense of inner authority. I also help people, and I do talks on building influence and cultivating influence. If you don't have internal authority, if you don't have this internal belief that you have power and that you have a voice and that you are a leader, then you're not going to cultivate influence, because influence is all about connection, and you're not even connected to your own power, to your own voice, to your own confidence. So the best way I can describe internal authority This is, I know you're going to laugh, so the best way that I can describe internal authority is, who knows who this athlete is? It is Michael Jordan, and there's a great documentary on Michael Jordan out right now. So for anyone who is interested in excellence, being top of your game, and working with people who are in the space, please check out that documentary. So notice what Jordan has in his hands. He has a basketball. So that basketball is your inner authority. So if you can imagine your ownership of your value, if you can imagine your personal power as a basketball that you hold in arm's grasp, right? You hold it close to you. When you have that and you're holding that, you have internal authority. However, people are going to try and take it away from you. Or sometimes what happens is you actually give your inner authority away to other people. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on. When you give your inner authority out to other people, it means that you're basically giving power to someone else in terms of how they dictate your destiny or how they dictate how you feel. And time after time, I work with people who are working a job, right? So they have rules and there are confines, but they've completely given their internal authority away, so that they're just reacting and they're not actually being a leader in their role. And when I describe this to them, they're like, yeah, someone else totally has the ball, right? Someone else has control of my destiny. And actually, if you bring your voice back, bring your power back, bring your leadership back, you can actually wield your inner authority. You can have more ownership than you ever thought possible. You can be part of certain boards and meetings that you didn't think possible because you didn't hold your inner authority. So throughout this presentation, I just want you to get a sense, and it's kind of an abstract question. How close are you? How close is your inner authority to you? Are you a master at it, right? Do you have the basketball and you're able to do tricks with it and you have it around you, and if someone takes it away, you get it back? Or actually, is it far away and you've actually given it to other people, given away to the circumstances, right? And I know for people who recently lost their jobs, or maybe they're afraid that transition is coming, it's very easy for us to give our inner authority away. And I'm telling you that you don't have to, it's yours, own it, and everything builds from there. So there are two different realities that I want to speak of, and this one is the reactive reality. I just pulled this from, I think, the New York Times, and so this is the current reality that we're seeing. There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of statistics. This is a reality that most people participate in. And this reality actually activates a certain part of our brain that is the limbic system. It's that fight or flight. It's the I must react, right? And we know this when we're at work, and then we see all these different changes coming from higher ups, and we see that the environment is changing, and then emergency happen, and you need to react. Reacting is not bad, but what happens is most of us never leave this reactive reality. And so we never get to activate the part of our brain that is actually able to seek opportunity, and that is able to be creative, and that is able to plan ahead. And so if you can imagine, if you're in a difficult situation and you're just reacting to, okay, well, then I need to make sure my job is safe. I need to do these, and, I need to make sure I save my job, and, I need to apply for work, and oh, but there isn't any work. And so we're in this reality that doesn't allow us to be creative. It doesn't allow us to see opportunities. It doesn't allow us sometimes even to see the abundance and the help that's there. And there is a lot of help there, okay? And most people are not taking advantage of this help. And I'm an entrepreneur, I own business. I've applied for all of these loans, and I've pretty much gotten every single one of these loans, right? And then I find the statistic that most people have not actually applied. So, and I know if you're frustrating, if you're applying for unemployment, let me tell you, if you leave the reality, the reactive mind, come into this other place where you activate a different part of your mind, which is creative, which, by the way, your advantage is most people aren't here. You can seek and receive opportunities and solutions that other people aren't able to attain, right? And people can attain this, but if you're in this, it's easier for you. So just so you know, right here, these qualities are qualities, leadership qualities that are really relevant in this current pandemic. So if you look at yourself and you look at your skills, right, and you look at what is needed, right now we need amazing simplification of all of these complex things that are happening. We need people that can help us prioritize what's really important because it seems like everything's on fire. We need people who can help us be more agile, who are agile, who can help us find new innovations and opportunities, whereas before we were doing the same thing over and over and over again. And this is a great time because people are actually open to these resources. Because honestly, at some level, one knows to do, right? And when you're in your leadership, you can better express these solutions. And also another leadership quality is optimization. All these supply chains and all of these systems that are breaking down, how can you, with your insight, help people optimize their structures so that they can deliver what is needed, right? So they can get things done. And then this is really important too, this leadership component, communication and collaboration. So right now is a really important time for people to connect to other people and for you to be connecting to people in your community, in your company. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later on. But for those of you who see it more as okay, this is the time for me to kind of pull away from people. No, you actually want to lean into and increase your communication. So leaders identify opportunities and leaders identify the gaps and also identify solutions. And here's an important role. Leaders also help others find solutions. A lot of times it's not about the solution that we think it's right. It's actually about us using our skills to communicate and help other people find solutions. And I'm going to give you a great example of this. So Dell Technologies did a study where on future jobs, and basically they discovered that over 85% of jobs in 2030, so in 10 years, over 85% of jobs in the year 2030 do not exist yet. So they're all completely new jobs. So honestly, the workplace as we know it is always shifting, it's changing. And so it's better for us leaders to realize this so that we can not be surprised and then we can actually foresee what's in the future. And so these are jobs that AI, this is from HubSpot, these are jobs that AI are likely going to replace in some way, right? And then these are jobs that AI can't replace. And actually one of the jobs that AI, it's very difficult for AI to replace is actually around engineering. And so the reason why I show you this is, so we talked about how leaders help you identify the gaps and find solutions and how people find the solutions. Well, there are big gaps here, right? So there are big gaps from where we were to where we're going, from where we were to where we are now. And if you can just look at what are the gaps in leadership, what are the gaps in processes, what are the gaps, you know, transitioning, maybe your job might not be around or might be a little bit different, right, in a few years' time. Really take the leading role in researching that and finding what the gaps are in your personal education, right? Finding the gaps are in your personal experience. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I want to get through to you, find the gaps of where we were and where we are and where your job is and where your job might be, and be the provider of the solution in that. And a big thing is right now the current pandemic is heralding an automation boom. So everything from retail to delivery services, right, to, again, logistics, we're seeking automation because it's just safer than having people on the line. So you might want to look at what that means for your industry, for your career, and also if you are personally interested in logistics, this might be a great opportunity for you as well. And this is from protocol.com. So let's do something really fun. We're going to take a sneak peek into your inner psychology. So remember how I said that there's two different realities. There's a reactive reality and an opportunity or creative reality. And that everyone here needs to choose to step into your place of leadership, into being a leader in your life and in your role. Well, sometimes our inner psychology affects how we step into our leadership, or if we even do it at all. So I'm going to give you a sneak peek into the world of our self-sabotage, the world of resistance. So chances are, if if you haven't fully consistently stepped into leadership or have been wanting to, but feel like you're not really recognized as a leader or have found some hangups, then there is something going on in the background. It's our unconscious. And for the most part, our unconscious actually runs the show. And so here, I would love for you to take out a pen and a paper and just begin to answer some of these questions. So a big reason why we don't achieve our goal, in this case, our goal is being a leader, right? Anything. It could be a financial goal, it could be a health goal, it could be a relationship goal, it can be a professional goal. If we don't achieve our goal and tried, then one of the reasons why is we're actually resisting it. There's a part of our unconscious, our psychology that resists it. And of course, you're like, why would I resist it? I want a raise, right? I do want to be promoted. I do want my ideal career. And I've been trying really hard to work at it. But let's just look at the facts. If you haven't achieved it already, there's a reason why. And part of the reason is there's some unconscious negativity associated with your achieving that goal. So I want you to just answer this question. If I took ownership in this area, if I took leadership in this area, and you can fill in the area, so if I took more ownership in my current role, then it means, and then fill in the blank. A lot of times when I work with people who have a goal of either getting a promotion or they want to grow their business, they have these unconscious beliefs that actively keep them from moving up. And they make sense. So I had a client who said that, if I doubled my income, then I would be obligated to share my money with my family and buy people things and take people on trips and give a lot of my money away for free, right? And it doesn't necessarily make sense, but these are unconscious things that she was thinking. If I took more ownership in my career, I would have to sacrifice what? I would have to sacrifice more of my personal time. I would have to sacrifice more of my energy, right? If I took ownership in if I took ownership in my health, then my health would get better, and then I would be responsible for taking care of more people, right? So these are things that you're saying in your subconscious that you're not aware of. But if you can fill in the blank here, and I'll give everyone just a little bit of time to do that, or save this for later. You want to do this exercise. I've had people really break through some deep, deep beliefs because they've made the unconscious conscious. And in that sense, your unconscious doesn't control you anymore. And these last two, you would be surprised. A lot of times people resist leadership because they're afraid their colleagues will think that they're this, right? They're afraid that their colleagues will gossip about them. They're afraid that their family will judge them. They're afraid that, they're afraid all these things would happen. And so if you can fill this out, then you will find out what your personal resistance is to leading. And you can use this for anything. You can use this for money blocks, right? If I took more ownership in my finances, then it means this, right? You can replace leadership and ownership with anything. And congratulations if you did a few of these exercises, because hopefully it means that you've discovered, you've learned something about yourself that you didn't know before. So this is a no thank you to no thanks. I don't want ownership and leadership because secretly I believe all of these things. So the next bit is, remember Michael Jordan and that ball, which is your internal authority. This is where you give your authority away. And this is really important because this is also very unconscious for most of us. So this is where you've surrendered your power. This is where you haven't spoken up. And how do you identify where you have given your power away? Well, this is basically when someone else has your authority. So notice, where does someone else cause you to feel upset or helpless or unworthy of speaking up or unworthy of a promotion? When has something else caused you to feel this way, right? The pandemic has caused you to feel this way. It means you've given your inner authority to the pandemic. If your partner, let's say your life partner, right? If your life partner makes you feel unappreciative, let's say, then it means that you have actually given your inner authority away to your partner and you're not taking leadership of that situation. And so I want you to look at, who do you blame? That's a great question to ask. And so I know everyone in here, either secretly in your mind, out loud, you're blaming someone, right? You're blaming your partner for not listening to you. You're blaming your colleagues for not understanding you. You're blaming the situation, the global pandemic, for causing chaos, right? You're blaming others. And here's the thing, it doesn't matter if your blame is correct or not. Blame is always disempowering, right? You might be blaming, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough money, right? You might be blaming all these things. Anytime you're blaming a person or thing, and it doesn't matter if you're right or not, you're actually giving your inner authority away. You're giving your power away. And we don't want to do that, because remember, when you give your authority away, you're stuck in this reactive reality, and it's very difficult to find solutions. You actually just find more people to blame. So yes, and we all know people that basically blame others for everything. I'm not saying that this is you, but on some level we all do this. And I want you to be the most powerful person you can be. Look at who you're blaming. Write this down right now. I blame my boss for this. I blame the pandemic for this. I blame so-and-so for this. Get really clear. The more honest you can get, the less your unconscious will control you, and the more you can have your own power back. So let's talk about some steps to reclaiming your authority and building influence. So here is a simple but not easy thing. And this thing, the complaining and blaming detox, if you can do 7 days without complaining or blaming anyone, your life will change. And you'll find that people are more positive people are surrounding you, not just other complainers and blamers. So if you do this, this will change life. And by the way, if anyone here has anxiety or where you get stuck in your mind a lot, if you do this detox, it will actually ease your anxiety and your worries, I promise you. So give yourself that commitment of doing at least a 7-day complaining and blaming detox, which means when you catch yourself doing it, don't do it. Okay, when you catch yourself wanting to talk to someone about how we should blame, this person for this, don't do it. And then to move from reactive to creative. So I want you for the rest of the day to look at your life and just notice all the areas that you're reacting. Are you looking at the meetings on your calendar and you're like, oh, I don't want to go to that meeting, or oh, that meeting? Or can you choose to be creative and just be like, okay, well, I'm going to this meeting and I'm going to set an intention of how I want to show up in this meeting, right? I'm going to create my experience, and I'm going to create a positive experience. So leadership is any area of your life. It's small areas, meaning like how you are in meetings, how you are in this meeting, and it's big areas, right? How you're leading your teams and your company and your goals. So move from reactive to creative. Notice when you're reactive. Notice when you're not reactive. When you're reactive, you're talking really fast. You're stressed. You probably have a headache. You're worrying. You have anxiety. You're complaining or blaming. That's a reactive space. When you're in your creative space, you actually see things differently. You're a little bit slower because you're actually breathing, right? You're able to think long-term and strategize. So that's what signifies being creative. And also, I will talk a little bit more about this later on. Start identifying opportunities, any opportunities. You can start by just noticing opportunities that other people are getting. So this is really important. It moves you from reactive, wait, I'm not getting those opportunities, to creative. Oh yeah, look at those great opportunities. I wonder what other opportunities are there. Do you see that? Start identifying opportunities. It means maybe even looking at opportunities that other people are getting that maybe you want, maybe you don't think they deserve them. It's totally okay. Notice opportunities. Notice things that can be done better. Notice things. Notice areas where maybe you don't have an expertise in, but there's something about your wisdom or your experience that can influence that industry, right? There are opportunities everywhere. Start looking for them. And don't worry, you've got this. Okay,
Anna,
so career envisioning. Yes.
Can you hear me? It's up to you if you're going to take it now, but I found it interesting because I've been there. I think we all have been there. What if especially with quality people that are always about improving, one of the questions that came in is, what if that blaming is about blaming ourselves? Are you still like giving away authority that way, or how do
Oh,
you address that?
yeah.
We can take it at the
That's a
end, but I wanted
great question. No, that's a great question. Yes, I love that question. What if
thank
you
you.
blame yourself? So, yeah, that's a great question. So, when you blame yourself, that is still blaming and that is complaining, even if it's about yourself, and it's inherently disempowering, right? Because you're saying that, okay, there's something wrong with me, or I did something wrong. It's different. We all make mistakes, right? So, it's one thing to acknowledge I made a mistake, and it's another thing to believe, okay, there's something wrong with me, or I'm a person who's wrong, or I'm a person who makes mistakes. So realize that anytime we make a mistake or anytime we blame ourselves, there's an opportunity there, right? There's an opportunity for us to move from reactive. We were reacting to a situation, and then I choose to react by blaming myself. I have done that. I'm sure everyone here has done that. And if we can move that to the creative space, okay, what is my learning here? Right? What's a reaction that feels better for me? And so I love that question because we've all done it. And blaming yourself is disempowering. And so I would just, for the person who asked that question, I would just ask you, what is a more creative way for being? What are the opportunities there for you? Knowing that you're used to blaming yourself, what are the opportunities there for you, for your growth, right? Because every obstacle that we have, it actually creates immense opportunities for us to move deeper into our leadership, so move deeper into our connection with other people. And this is what I teach, especially entrepreneurs. Anytime that we get stuck in something, we know that other people have also been stuck in blaming themselves. And guess what? Like I have who create programs, right, about how to heal from blaming yourself or how to move beyond blaming yourself. And just so that you know, nothing is negative. There's an opportunity everywhere. So I know that's more than what you asked, but hopefully that's helpful. If not, please let me know, but great question. Okay, so
Thank
career envisioning. If you lost your job, thank you. If you lost your job tomorrow, okay, I know that this is, for those of you who might have lost your job, feel horrible, but there is a part of you. Is there a part of you that might be secretly relieved? I understand there's obviously like financial things, like how am I going to feed my family, what am I going to do with my career, how am I going to find a new job? So I'm not talking about that. Those are all relevant questions, but I want you to go deep, deep, deep within. And is there a part of you that actually is secretly relieved? And it's really important to acknowledge that if that's not, that's totally fine too. And I ask that question because I want you to ask why. Why would a part of me be secretly relieved of losing my job? And this question, and it's not for everyone, right? But for some people, it might be, yeah, I didn't really like that job anyway, or I really want to do something else instead, or I really want to spend more time with my family. And that basically your values come out, right? Your values, and remember, this is a big change for the world. So, which means that this is a great time of change for you and exploring, okay, how can I have a job that also allows me to spend time with my family, right? What can I create? And we'll go over some things later on. But it's just really important for you to know yourself in this time. And a great question to ask is, what do you want to change? So write down your answer to this, like what part of you wants change, what part of you might be relieved that you did lose your job or that you might lose your job, right? And that's a little part of you, it's not the bigger part, but there's a little part of you. And if you ask why and you write it down, and you take it through the authority questions from before, sometimes you might find that you didn't like your job because there was a lot of times that you gave your authority away, right? To other people, to your boss, to your manager, to your colleague, to whatever. And this might, you might want to change that, right? So these are some steps that you can take. And I want you to take a breath and really be able to see this more on a higher level, on a meta level. So I want you to make a note of this. What are some areas and organizations and people where you can add value and a different perspective. It might be interdisciplinary, it might be a completely different industry, it might be industries that you are actually interested in. And I know people who are really interested in the automotive industry, but their skill is in project management, right? And so it might be a completely different industry. I know some people who are interested in being a professional speaker, and but all they know is engineering, right? So it's really important for you to look at industries that are interesting to you, and also to look at the gatekeepers of those industries, and to find out, okay, how can I fit in? What skills do I have to these industries? And if we look at this bottom part, which is start connecting with the gatekeepers and understanding their pain points, this is really important. This is where people usually, especially quality people, especially engineers, especially process-oriented people, really focused on the solution, right? We figured out a solution, and this is the best solution. And really, in order to sell the solution, right, we need to look at who the gatekeepers are and understand their points. So I have a client who created this amazing software for construction management, and it basically, you input all of the raw materials and the labor and all that stuff, and you input it, and it basically creates a whole plan for you. And it was a great solution, but for the gatekeepers, the people who actually manage these construction projects, their pain points were actually, we don't need to plan the whole thing. We don't need this solution to us losing money. We actually just need to survive. That's what we're doing right now. And so we need to look at where their pain points are and be able to sell, if you will, to that pain point. So because they hold their solution at the same level where their prospect thinking, that prospect couldn't internalize that solution. They knew it was a great solution, but we can't use that right now. Right now. We're just trying to survive. We can't think big picture. Right? So for some people who might be looking at going into different careers, or maybe connecting with people who are gatekeepers of certain jobs or certain opportunities, this is a great time to connect with them, because gatekeepers now, they're also kind of trying to see what are they doing, right? So I know people who are going into the training space, right? The professional training and speaking space, and the gatekeepers for these spaces are the eventers. And right now, these gatekeepers are like, I don't even know when we can start having trainings again. But right now, I have people who actively need it. And so as someone who has skills in that area, and I know that that's their pain point, I can say, hey, let me do some free trainings for you. Let me get on the phone with you and help you brainstorm, right? Let's see if I'm happy to share some time with you to see if we can figure this out. How can you see their pain points and add value to them? Because that's when they start to see that they're part of the solution. And you also realize that you're not working in a vacuum. You're being the solution finder, and you're showing them why they need you. And again, this is the best time to do it, because this is unprecedented times. People don't actually know what to do. And if you're someone, A, comes in the solution because you see the gaps, because you see your leadership, and also B, you understand what their pain points are, then why on earth would they not want your help? And so this is a great time for you to experiment also. And if you want to be in a completely different industry, this is a great time for you to experiment and connect with people. And hey, I have a background in quality, and I'm seeing that you have some issues that I think I could help you with. Would you like to talk more about that? And this is a great time for you to just build that relationship and do things for free and see how you can add value and help, because they will remember you. And also, no one is doing this, okay? This is kind of a secret for people who are in this leadership space. So the question you might ask is, what skills do I add? And this is actually an exercise that I got from one of my clients who helped people get promotions. Her name is Ashley Prey. And she realized that the office manager for her office took a vacation, a 2-week vacation, and they had already planned for people to take over her role and do the schedule and all that stuff, but they did not anticipate how much they would miss her. And so I want to think of, if you took a 2-week vacation, how would your company suffer, right? What would they miss out on? Even if maybe people are doing some of the jobs, what would your team have to figure out without you? And we all know that it's not the specific things that you do. There are also a lot of other complex relational things, and that because the nuances, right? Because you have that expertise. So ask yourself, what do my team have to figure out without me? Also, what are the intangibles, right? So for this office manager, she was it wasn't her job, but she made everyone feel warm and welcome, and she anticipated people's needs, and she was there to listen to them, right, when they were complaining and blaming. And so there was that intangible piece. There was relationships with software. What didn't get done because people don't want to talk to the other person, right? So what are the intangibles of you not being there? What would the company be missing? Your expertise, your specific experience, what would the company be missing if you weren't there? And what wouldn't get done as well? Maybe things would get done, but there's just something missing, right? So people were scheduling and stuff when this office manager was on vacation, but no one enjoyed being in the office as much. So these are the ways to think of what technical skills and experience, also the other intangible assets that you offer, and everyone here has this. So take a look at these questions and fill them out for yourself. And you can also ask other people. That's a great method of figuring out your leadership qualities too. So this comes back to the this innovation in basically replacing jobs with AI. These are the qualities that are irreplaceable for the next few decades as we know, right? And these are qualities that actually people are actively looking for. So on top of your current skills, these are qualities like emotional intelligence. So the ability to express your emotions and also be understanding of other people's emotions. These are things, if this is your weakness, this is a great time for you to work on these skills. Creative problem solving. What we need is creative problem solving. And I bet some of you are actually really good problem solvers, and most of you are really creative, even if you might not think you are. So creative problem solving, management, right? Look into areas where there are management gaps in your current role, in your future roles, and also in communication. So internal communication, but also external communication, as well as, I love this, nonverbal communication. So I want you to ask yourself, how do you already embody these skills in your current role, and what impact do they have? And here's the part that's important about planning for your future career. How can you highlight these qualities? How can you find specific instances where you did creative problem solving, right? Where you helped to manage a difficult relationship or situation because of your emotional intelligence, right? Because of your communication. So you want to actively be looking at what skills are relevant for the roles that you want and for your role as it evolves into the future. And you want to actively be highlighting these qualities in your CV, in your reviews, right? And in your day-to-day leadership. So always be thinking of specific situations and metrics where you add value, especially when it comes to these, jobs of the future, if you will. And this is just a reminder of some of the leadership qualities that are really relevant right now. And so I put this slide up here because some of you actually might be thinking of either doing a startup or creating some consulting on the side, or even testing that, or even having an entrepreneurship mentality, even if you are staying. And I thought this was really cool, just the best industries for starting a business right now, and one that kills me is pet wearables. Like, come on, who would have thought, right? But I just want to put this in here to give you an idea. And remember that slide earlier on, which was the slide about identifying gatekeepers. Here's the thing: if there's a certain industry that interests you, or something that maybe it's a specific company that interests you, follow your interests, connect with the gatekeepers or connect with people there, find a skill that is helpful for them, and maybe that skill you'll find can turn into a startup. Maybe that skill can turn into consulting. I work with people who because they've started a side business, a side consulting business, they love, and it's because they have an internal curiosity and desire to create something that they fully own. And everyone on this call, I am pretty certain that almost everyone on this call has set that you can use in consulting. In some level of consulting, you can teach it to people. I teach my my clients who have an expertise in something. I teach them to create a workshop that they have people pay to this workshop, and then people pay anywhere from $100 to $500, right? And you get 10 people. That's a really good day. And you create these workshops, and then you're really just testing your idea and seeing if people will pay for it, seeing if it's valuable in the marketplace, right? And pivoting as necessary. I would love for you all to think, what skills do I have that are actually marketable right now? And there are consulting agencies look for people with these specific skills. And I forget the name, but I'll find it and it to the group. Some of you might already know. So find your area of expertise and see if you can create side income from it. And if anyone has a question about that, I would love to answer those questions. And if anyone is interested in any of these industries, well then amazing, because those are going to be the industries that are most needed. Okay, and so this is my last slide. I'm going to wrap up and go to the Q&A. And I just want you, I know I went through a lot, but I just want you to remember this one thing. In a reactive person who sees the opportunity, and you really begin to exercise that other part of your mind, and you will be shocked at the different levels of opportunity around you, even if it seems completely hopeless. It seems completely hopeless because you're in a different part of your brain. And if you can remove yourself from the reactive side, see the opportunity side, then what happens is you will naturally stand out as a leader, and you will be able to create changes that you want in your life. And by the way, this skill, if you do it for no other reason than, oh, let me just try it out and build a new skill to see opportunity where other people see panic, that skill and people who embody that skill are always needed, okay? Always need. And just think about it. Think about your teams, right? Who is the person that you want to keep? Is it the person that is in that reactive space that's always trying to, you know, they can't figure it out because they're just so stuck and it's very frustrating, right? Or is it the people who are like, you know, don't worry, I'll figure this out. I got this. So people who see the opportunity, people who step into the leadership are always needed. And to be honest with you, maybe current job doesn't support that, but another job will, and it will be a much better fit for you. Okay, so that is my presentation. And thank you for bearing with me.
Thank you. I'll let you speak forever. You guys can start asking questions. Pleasure to meet them now, consider a friend, but initially through ASQ and conference. And it's been interesting, inspiring to see your personal journey as well. And as I read your book, I remember thinking before the book, you think she's just great, and she just can control everything that happens around her, and then has the answer to it, right? And it just comes so naturally while listening at you. And then going through the book, which I highly recommend, Shadow Magic, I believe was, you see how you yourself came from a path of dealing with anxieties of everything going around you, fears, instability, and all of that, not just your own personal, but any connection you had around. And what impresses me, and I'd like you to share maybe something about that, is you still chose, because people who decide to have a coaching career, it's like choosing to stay in an instability field because it's not that stable. So you kind of need a conscious choice, basically. And I think at this time, we are as well required to choose to be entrepreneurs of our own life. I mean, not open coaching, but those skills and how do you make that decision to consciously choose to stay there, and how you deal with your own. I mean, I follow you on Facebook as your day. You also have your time as well. But how did you choose to stay there, or what helped you?
So that's a great question. And you mentioned, how do you stay in the industry, and I think that we found that really at some level, everything is unstable, meaning that there's no job that is guaranteed, right? And even in the field of entrepreneurship, obviously, we don't know. Like, I don't know how many clients I'm going to have next month,
exactly.
Right? But I know in my ability to create income. I know in where I add value and where the points of my clients and gatekeepers are. And so I think that's a really important reality for us to sit in, because no job is really guaranteed. And so it really is important for us to stand in that place of leadership and be honest. Like, is my job going to be here in 10 years? Maybe, maybe not, right? And if it isn't, then what? What skills do I need, right? What industries do I want to be in? Where do I want to be building connections and relationships? So we need to be more active, I think, than before, because the world is changing so quickly and careers are changing quickly, that the ability to just adapt and to see what is needed, and to that muscle of helping people fill in the gaps and find solutions. Will always be problems, right? There will always be a gap. So be the person who isn't reliant on, let's say, a specific job, and let's say I have this job. No, reliant on yourself, and how confident you can be in terms of your skills, and also your relationships, and sometimes in your research. Good research can land you in a pretty good position, right? So I think nothing is really stable, and what's important is our leadership through that. If we're okay with the fact that jobs are not stable, my business is not stable, right? But if we're okay with that and we're confident in our leadership, then we know that we'll always figure it out. And that's the real true source of internal authority and influence, is knowing that no matter what, I'll figure it out. And then sometimes people might actually have fun in the chaos, which is what this is all about. Chaos is good. Chaos is growth. Chaos allows you to connect with people much easier. Chaos allows people to stand out as leaders much easier. Right? Chaos is change, chaos is innovation. We won't be scared of it. Most people are scared of it, which is why we can get stuck. But if we're not scared of it, we can find opportunity. And I know for me, having a coaching business always keeps me on my toes, and I really like that.
I think what you just mentioned always keeps you on your toes. I think we don't always have to wait for a crisis in order to wake up and do our inner search and all of that, and then figure out who we are, what we want, and what we're good at. This is a work that needs to be done all the time. And when that crisis happens, maybe it won't even feel like a crisis at that degree, as I feel if we haven't worked with ourselves that much. So I think these webinars as well should be, that should be the credits or whatever else it could provide to somebody who has a certification on something. So another question we have, it's kind of a situation, but I feel this is a common one. So thank you, Anna. We had actually, Anna, many compliments webinar, so we appreciate that. We appreciate that somehow this is helpful for people at this time. So in a situation where the management is not supportive, as they are consciously or working development growth, how can someone not have a reactive mindset? Because in this case, the employee will always feel that however good or talented they are, they will always not be able to succeed, basically, because they don't have that support.
Yes, that's a great question. So being reactive is very natural, right? And in some levels, it's healthy. You're literally reacting to a situation. And so what I've noticed in my experience is when an employee and they're butting heads, it's really a conflict of priorities. And if you can see, and again, that's about the gatekeepers and their pain points. If you can see your manager's pain points or your manager's priorities, that gives you a better picture. And sometimes we might not agree with those priorities, right? We might not agree with, because we're saying, hey, here's the solution. And they're saying, well, we don't want to focus on that yet. We're actually going to focus on doing something else, which might actually lead to a bigger problem. And you're like, wait, I don't see that. That doesn't make sense. So that's a really important time for you to really sit with yourself and say, wait a second, can I, does it feel good for me to continue being in this company where their priorities are not my priorities, right? That's a question to ask yourself. And another question to ask yourself is, what if I saw their priorities from their perspective? How can I help them? So usually conflicts are conflict of priorities and perspective. And if you can be that empathetic person who can see from their perspective, then you can figure out a solution. And it's almost like a different outcome. So I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, those are some questions I would ask.
I actually, I think we had this similar in change resistance and things like that in other webinars as well. It's a common in organizations and beyond. And I do agree to some level, we do need to do that. First, you do that work, what you just mentioned. How can I help? I mean, you can see what actually is going on. Maybe it was lack of inclusion. So if you are included since the beginning, maybe you would have known what was happening and why it was important. So maybe you would come to an agreement. But at some level, you might be finding people who are not working with themselves as managers or leaders, whoever. So you'll be able to find the common area to some degree. I mean, to me personally, nothing is wrong even if you decide to leave. But again, before you do this work of looking at it from the other person's perspective, but you are not like a slave at the end of the day. So we always have choices, even though we might look at we don't have a choice. So that's my perspective on that. One last question.
Yes.
It's not a question, it's kind of here. And I hope it's not the idea about quality always has to be good. So chaos is not good. I personally don't quite agree. I feel like if there is chaos there, something is not working or something needs to change, or so it's kind of poka-yoka. So it's like telling you that something must be looked at. Quality is continuous improvement. We shouldn't think that quality is within quality departments. In my view, we need to keep improving. So I wouldn't get stuck in this idea. I know quality because I personally came from quality job, but we need to extend that. Like, not because we are in the quality department, we think we know it all, and if there is chaos, then it's not good. But that's my personal opinion on that. I don't know if you have any last comment to add, Anna. This was great.
Oh yeah, I agree. Chaos is not good, right? There's some things that chaos is really good for, and there's some things that chaos is not good for. And the point of it is your comfort in the chaos, your ability to hold your internal authority in the chaos. That's the most important thing. So yeah, I can make an argument chaos is good, or in chaos, can you still lead? Can you hold your internal authority? Can you move from a reactive space, right, putting out the fires, to think of like bigger solutions and opportunities? So yeah, absolutely.
So before they leave, I want to point out that we will be saving the presentation. We will be posting because you had really interesting, which I'm going to do myself as well, exercises there, very practical. And we will post this week the presentation on my SQ, and we'll also have the recording available on YouTube sometime this week. So take your time, reflect on it. It's not supposed to be a one webinar done within this hour, so take your time to reflect over and over, and please remind yourself this work needs to be done continuously with ourselves. it needs to be patient. It's not that we go through a growth model and then we expect ourselves to just keep growing. We're gonna go back and forth. And I've personally been there, and you feel like, wow, why is it not working? I'm following these steps and it's not working, and I'm actually doing the opposite. And then you go with all this blaming yourself mindset. So just calm, allow yourself with the path that it takes, and you'll get there. So thank you so much, Anna. Thank you, Kieran, as always, helping with these webinars. Today's presentation, as I said, will be available. We already have actually another webinar in June set up for June 9th. We'll still focus on career. We know what you're going through. So our next webinar will be with another career coach, actually, specifically to career related, Erin Urban. We had the pleasure to have her last year, I believe, or 2 years ago. The topic will be the future of work and your job search, specifically to the job search during a disruption. Registration is already posted on my ASQ community. You'll get also an automatic notification for webinars if you follow link. Otherwise, you'll just get the journal you get usually when you are a member. We will have a short survey. It's up to you to take it. We strongly recommend, because we see what else you need or what else can we do to help you. There are the RU credits for ASQ certification for those who stayed for 40 minutes. I will be sending a separate email, follow-up email, but a separate one by tomorrow maximum. Again, thank you so much. Thank you, Anna, as usual. Very good and a pleasure. I'm sure we'll continue our personal communication, but I'm very happy that you shared your wisdom tonight. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Talk to you next month.